scripture for today is Psalms 71, 1 through 6. I have taken refuge in you, Lord. Don't let me ever be put to shame. Deliver me and rescue me by my righteousness. Bend your ear toward me and save me. Be my rock of refuge when I can always escape. You commanded that my life be saved because you are my rock and my fortress. My God, rescue me from the power of the wicked. Rescue me from the grip of the wrongdoer and the oppressor, because you are my hope, Lord. You, Lord, are the one I've trusted since childhood. I've depended on you from birth. You cut the cord when I came from my mother's womb. My praise is always about you.
The title of today's message is Secure Hope. It seems to me that in our world today, security is a big thing. I've kind of learned that as I plan a trip overseas. There seems to be a different document and a different this and a different that for just about everything. But even probably what hits us closer to home is just trying our personal. And this is kind of a big deal for most of us. Back in the day, well, people used to kind of hide their money under the mattress. Some still do. Anybody remember doing that? But for the most part, we've figured out in today's society that that mattress probably is one of the first places that a thief is going to look if they think that you're hiding cash in your house. There's been other creative ways that people have come up with to keep money and valuables safe. Put it in an old sock in the bottom of a drawer, in an envelope taped to the back of the cat litter box, a baggie inside the sugar bowl, a cup clear at the back of the cabinet, maybe a home safe, but even those two can be carried away. All very ingenious, but not completely secure. After all, any of these are easily discovered. As such, most of us will choose to put our money and our valuables in a bank or in a safe deposit box. Yet our most popular accounts are those accounts with online password protected. Of course, I don't know how many. I mean, you could even snap a picture of your check today and it'll go directly to your account. So we come up with a string of characters somewhere usually between 6 and 15, and then we assume, well, my account is safe. How many of you have your phones or computers or internet accounts password protected? Yeah, most of us do. I know the church has their accounts protected. So the problem with the passwords, though, for me is, sometimes they can be kind of challenging to remember. Nevertheless, they say, we should be changing those passwords every few months and make them as difficult as possible. Use a combinations of capital letters, small letters, numbers, and then symbols. And these are all supposed to keep us safe. And maybe they're safe, and maybe they're not. In fact, the truth is, our password-protected account may be no safer than if we were to put our stuff in a plastic bottle in a toilet tank. Because according to those techie folks who study these things, they say our online passwords are not as effective against most hackers as we might like to think. That they're no longer adequate means of securing our data. And it doesn't matter if it's our money, our identities, retirement accounts, health information, or your credit cards. It seems no matter how complex and unique our passwords are, in reality, they really can't protect us. How many of you have ever had an account hacked? You know, I know that's happened. And so we thought we were safe, and well, now we're not. It's a common occurrence because hackers, they know how to break into our computer systems, and they can release lists of names and passwords and stuff on a regular basis. How many times do we see on the news where a big company has been hacked into and all your personal information is now floating out there in the world sometimes? And in a world where we put so much of our information on the internet, in the cloud, because more and more agencies are now requiring us to do so. I mean, Mike and I are finding out how difficult it is just to write a check for a bill these days. They do not want a check. You know, they want me to put it online. So it's becoming easier and easier for criminals to trick customer service agents into releasing and resetting our passwords. If you just have a couple of answers to a few quick questions, they will reset your password for you in most cases. Not to mention, you know, my question, what happens when those people who are helping me reset my password quit? Just saying. We're not always as secure as we think. And then we really oftentimes think that our passwords are really secure. And we try to come up, if you're like me, with something that you can remember, because it's really hard to remember 16 numbers, letters, and that. But people are still using like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ABC, 1, 2, 3, QWERTY, which is the keyboard. Oh, and the one, my favorite, is password. The conference is really good about this. Your password is password, really? Are you kidding me? No lie, I'm not kidding. There's people out there that can attest to that. So one can only hope our internet security experts are working hard to stay one step above the bad guys. Maybe our best bet is just to go back to taping the envelope on the bottom of the cat litter box. There are, of course, other security issues that assail us, whether it be our physical security, our emotional security, or our spiritual security. For years, we have trusted agencies, government, to provide us with political security, our law enforcement to provide us with community service, medical systems to provide us with health security, our financial system to provide us with economic security. And we're learning that there can be breakdowns in all of these systems, and not generally on purpose. It's not generally on purpose, but mistakes happen. Failures happen. And so they often fail to offer that protection and security that they assure us that they will provide. And now that I have ripped away the security blanket of the 21st century, we might ask, in today's cloud-based world, where is solid and trustworthy security to be found? In today's text, the writer of Psalm, presumably David, challenges us to think long and hard about the source of our security, calling God a rock of refuge, a strong fortress, one who can rescue us from the hand of the wicked. In other words, Psalm 71 is challenging us to put our faith in God and God's word instead of like systems and human words and, well, online passwords. To place our faith not in technological fixes, but in theological fixes. To place our hope in God who offers us eternal security, not a password that needs changed every few months. This profound sense of being vulnerable before God is not new. and it's as ancient as humanity itself. Sometimes it is so easy in our protected society to forget that ultimately God is our refuge. In times of trouble, in times of pain, in times of fear, in times of hope, in times of joy, God is our refuge. So this psalm is a poignant reminder of where true security really lies. The Psalms were written thousands of years ago, and they still resonate deeply with us today because they speak to that unfailing need for protection, guidance, and reassurance in a world that often feels chaotic and hostile. Sometimes it's our community, sometimes it's our home, sometimes it's where we work. So as we navigate through these complexities of life, filled with technological marvels and simultaneous threats, and the wisdom of the psalmist echoes through time, urging us to find that our ultimate refuge is in God. This isn't just this passive act of faith, but it's a conscious decision to trust in something greater than ourselves and the fragile constructs of human ingenuity. In times of crisis, whether they be personal or collective, we often find ourselves yearning for a sanctuary, a safe place, or a presence that offers this indisputable security. And our psalmist's plea to God is a rock of refuge, a strong fortress. Is as much a declaration of faith as it is a call to reorient our priorities and who we trust. Standing on the promises of God, we say. It challenges us to kind of look beyond these transient solutions of our age and to anchor our lives in the eternal promises of God. So just as David sought divine protection from his adversaries, we too are called to seek God's protection from the myriad of threats that we face today, be they physical, emotional, spiritual. We all face a different threat. We all can name something that is different that brings us threat. The imagery of God as a fortress speaks to the unwavering strength and stability that only a divine presence can provide. It invites us to imagine a place of absolute safety, free from the fears and uncertainties that plague us. You know, the Psalms are always my go-to. They're always my go-to. When I'm afraid, I'm not sure what to do, I'm feeling insecure, the Psalms are always my go-to. And in our pursuit of security, we got to remember that true safety isn't found in the ever-changing landscape of human institutions, but in the steadfast love and faithfulness of God. And so when we trust in God, we embrace a security that transcends the temporal and touches the eternal. And that is what the psalm is saying. This is the heart of the message of Psalm 71, a timeless truth that offers hope and peace in an insecure world. This realization then transforms our understanding of security from a mere physical or digital safeguard to this profound spiritual assurance, and it calls us to invest our trust in the unchanging nature of God, who promises to be our refuge and strength and a very help in trouble. The divine assurance becomes our anchor and our guiding light through the tempestuous seas of life. Our psalm today begins with those words, "I've taken refuge in you, Lord. Don't let me be put to shame." King David is asking God to be his rock and refuge where he can escape. Now, we don't know in this particular situation what David's trouble was. David was always facing trouble and peril of some kind. We don't know if it was a family, if he was being chased by enemies, needed to hide, or if he was struggling with illness or his spiritual well-being, weakness, age. We don't know. But regardless, he pleads to God, "Deliver me and rescue me by your righteousness. Bend your ear toward me and save me." The truth is, at times, we all need a strong fortress of refuge that can't be penetrated by hackers, criminals, illness, enemies, failures, or betrayals. During times of distress and disillusionment, we kind of long for a place that is a rock and a refuge, that mighty fortress, a bulwark that never fails. Those are some words from the hymn that we sang this morning. Martin Luther felt a need for such a place. I know we're Wesleyans, but Luther was a really good guy too. And when he found this need for strength and refuge when he took this strong stance against the Roman Catholic Church during the Protestant Revolution. And Luther wasn't a popular man in his time because he challenged the status quo of the church along with many other theologians. And those who speak out against corruption and against error, those who speak truth to power within a system are never going to be popular. You go into that knowing, I'm not going to be the popular person. Luther knew death threats. He knew outside influence of plague and personal agony of losing his own children. Yet by the grace of God, he was able to keep the faith and keep pointing others to Jesus and the truth of God's word. The hymn that we sang this morning was written in 1529 by Luther. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. Our helper he amid the flood, of mortal ills prevailing. These words are powerful, but the original German is a better translation, and it sends a much stronger message. Now, I am not schooled in German language, so those of you that are, forgive me if I don't get pronunciations exactly right. But he compared God not only to a fortress, but to a stronghold, what he calls an Esteberg. And that word Este points to a strong and fully secure tower. And by doing this, Luther stresses the absolute power of God over invading forces. And so that is why the hymn's second verse ends with that triumphant prediction, and Christ must win the battle. A mighty fortress, we say, moves us past that idea that we can have protection, human protection, such as a password, to something much more safe and unbreakable, this stronghold that is created by God. But Luther is pointing to something deeper when he speaks of this Esteberg, because a burg was a fortified town. If you are familiar with England, you have seen some of those fortified kinds of walls that they built back in the time. And sometimes there was one wall, and then there was another, and then there was another. So in this hymn, Luther's saying that God is like the most powerful of all burgs, one in which nothing can break those walls. When we need a place of refuge, God offers us his mighty fortress, his Esteberg. This stronghold can't be hacked or broken into, since it stands a fortified town with eternally unbroken walls. God is unbreakable, folks. And within the refuge of God's fortress, we'll never be put to shame, because our value is based on a relationship with God, not on earthly achievements and successes. So inside this fortified town, or this Esteberg, we are delivered, rescued, and saved by a Lord who desires to be in relationship with us, not just now, but eternally. Let's be clear, though. The Esteberg is not free of struggles. That is not what Luther was saying. As long as we're going to face what Luther called a flood of mortal ills. We will still experience personal attacks, betrayals, failures, illness, and the difficulties that come with advancing age. We're going to still be shocked sometimes by the headlines of our day. We will still cry out, as Isaiah did, "How long, O Lord, how long?" But God acts as a helper amid the flood of mortal ills, one who supports and shields us. God's refuge is that safe sanctuary, far more powerful than any password we create, system that we can depend upon or put our trust in. So Psalm continues with those words, rescue me from the power of the wicked, rescue me from the grip of the wrongdoer and the oppressor, because you are my hope, Lord. Notice who the psalmist turns to for strength and rescue. The writer is turning to God for help and asking to be rescued from the cold grip of wicked, unjust, and cruel people. We all have those folks in our lives. There are just some people who are mean. And David in the psalm is saying, help me out here, Lord. Rescue me. Be my strength. Be my refuge. Be my helper. You know, when we feel insecure as if there's no safe place, let us cling to God, who is our refuge and our strength, knowing that God is true and that God will prevail against the principalities of this world. God rules the world, and that is what this psalm is basically saying. The psalmist trusts that God, not the wicked, rules the world. The truth is, God's in charge of the grand sweep of human history, despite evil, unfair, and heartless acts that people commit every day. David's learned how to do this by saying, you are my hope. You, Lord, are the one I've trusted since childhood. I've depended on you from my birth. My praise is always about you. And so, folks, when we're feeling upended, we can do the same. The psalm invites and challenges us to put our total trust in God. It reminds us that when we put our faith in God, we're going to discover that God in Christ is a rock of refuge and a strong fortress, our Esteberg. We find that God, as the psalmist, makes it clear when the world feels insecure, when our protections are stripped away, our security and hope rests in God, a mighty fortress. And it is in him that we are eternally secure. For me, the Psalms have always been a place of safety and refuge, of hope and joy, a place of deep faith and learning. And so my prayer for you is that when you struggle, that you would turn to this psalm, or maybe you have another favorite psalm, and read through this and be reminded that God is your hope and your strength, a mighty fortress who wishes you not harm, but only grace and goodness and love. As we go to communion this morning, I want to remind you that everyone